it's a grind, and you got to really, really want it. And then that's what we talk about every single day is we know that this is not easy. I know the fans think it's easy, but it really isn't easy. And when you watch the NBA, I mean, there were some of those guys in their bubble that you could tell maybe they wanted to get out of there as quick as possible. And, I think that at least with our team, I haven't sensed that at all.
It's a What's Your Beef Wednesday here on The Morning Rush, and we have a loaded show for you this morning. Eric Musselman went on Jim Rome yesterday. That was the audio that you heard, him talking about just the emotional side of the wear and tear emotionally that this basketball team, not just Arkansas, but other teams are going through in the NCAA tournament right now. I want to talk about Jalen Williams, what he said yesterday. He met with the Arkansas media via Zoom and talked about how initially him and Devo weren't getting as much playing time, but how they fought through it, they persevered, and now they are where they are. Baseball team kicked Memphis's butt last night. We'll get to that. There's a piece from Kent Sterling, who's an Indiana guy, on Justin Smith that we're going to go back on because it's funny now when you're reflecting on it. And guest-wise, Brett Good joins us at 7:20. Chuck Barrett joins us at 8. And a late-arriving guest, Eric Musselman, is going to join us at 6:30.
So 3 A-listers here today as we got the A-team coming on the show today. Chuck and Coach all coming in the show today. So going to be fun. And for Coach, I'm sure it's as you get ready for Oral Roberts and you look at all these others, they'll never admit looking ahead. Do what?
He just called in, so I guess he's...
Coach just called in?
Yeah, he just called in. So
we're doing it at 6:30.
I guess we're doing now. What's up, Coach?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm sitting here on my stationary bike board. What's happening?
Hi, nothing.
Well, we're talking about you. Your ears must have been burning.
Yeah, it's not gossip.
Hopefully you're not talking about me like after those back-to-back losses. That was brutal.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us this morning, and we were just playing the audio from you and talking on Jim Rome yesterday, and this is something Tommy brought up. There's a new element for you and every other coach and player and staff member in this NCAA tournament, not just the NCAA tournament, but really this season overall with COVID. How much of an emotional wear and tear has that been on you, not being able to hug Mariah, not be able to see Danielle? You've talked about it a little bit, but for our listeners, how difficult has that been for you?
It's probably been the most difficult thing, outside of competition with a basketball team or recruiting or just from a personal standpoint. The greatest thing when we were at our Sweet 16 at Nevada was celebrating with our family because they're the ones that sacrifice. I mean, at 11 o'clock at night when Danielle, would like to watch a show and I'm on the phone with the recruit, she's the one that suffers. And then in the morning when Mariah's going to school and I'm on the phone with the recruit and, she's the one that loses daddy time. And so this is a time that, normally we can celebrate, and that's not the case. I mean, it was so hard to wave as we got on the bus and high five and not be able to go over there and hold my wife's hand or give my daughter a hug or even my son who goes to the University of San Diego. I haven't seen him in about 5 months. My sister flew in from Dallas with her son, so just so many family members that you don't really get a chance to see, and they're here to celebrate with you, and your celebration with them is just a wave. So it has been difficult.
Yeah. As you get ready for Oral Roberts, we were talking about this yesterday. I mean, you think it's an advantage to play a team you're familiar with, you played once. I don't know how much these two teams are exactly the same as when you played the first time, but is it an advantage or a disadvantage to have a team you've already done that on? I would think it is because you've done some work, but they're also familiar with you too, Coach.
Yeah, I think because we played each other, no real advantage, and we're so good at home, that it could give you false sense of reality if you allow it and if you don't talk about it. So, we watched that whole game last night with the team at dinner. We were down most of that game. Every game takes on its own identity, but they're 2 star players. Number 0 and number 3, their point guard and their power forward. They are playing right now, those two, better than any combination in the entire NCAA tournament. So you've got to deal with 2-star players that have incredible confidence right now, and they both have the green light. If you look at the points that they both put up together against Florida and against Ohio State, 2 really good teams. We got to really lock in defensively in order to win this game.
Yeah. Jalen Williams obviously missed time at the SEC tournament. Back, the rust is knocked off. His contributions and what he doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. Charges taken, obviously the rebounds the other day. You don't win without those. He's a player that you can't win without, even though he doesn't always score a lot of points.
No, he's so valuable. And, if you look at the totality of our season, we lost to LSU really without Jalen. We lost those games without Justin Smith. Amazingly, this team has not lost many games when everybody's been together. Mm-hmm. And they have great belief in one another. But Jalen, as we look into the future, which we have to, you're always looking present day and then into the future. I mean, he has to be such a focal point of how we build this roster because he, does all the little things. How about he was 1 assist away in that Texas Tech game from leading the game in assists, and he did lead the game in rebounding.
It's unbelievable, those 2 statistics for a big man. And Justin Smith, after the game, talked about that Jalen just makes his life easier. The combination of them has been great. We're talking with Eric Musselman, head basketball coach, live from Indianapolis, Indiana, here on the Morning Rush. Coach is simultaneously talking to us while exercising, which I will never understand how he's able to do.
We'd be out of breath, Coach.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're not doing this. I'm glad we don't do the show on a bike or a treadmill.
Read and exercise.
Wouldn't be very good.
So let's discuss Justin Smith for a second. I know that you guys have had some fun, your staff and your team on social media, whether it was Seth Davis, Todd Furman, and now this Kent Sterling clip is making the waves where this Indiana guy's talking about this kid has no reason going to Arkansas, blah, blah, blah. And Justin, after the postgame yesterday, says coming to Arkansas was the best decision of his life. When you look at his impact, Coach, it's a legitimate conversation. He's been the most impactful transfer that Arkansas's had in 20-some-odd years. How do you think you were able to sell him on coming to your program at the University of Arkansas?
Well, we had to sell him a vision. Obviously, we felt like we had a really good first year. 2 players putting on an NBA uniform, this year. So we lost 2 really talented players. So we told him that, if you look at the points and the minutes that Isaiah and Mason had, we need to fill those somehow. And we, really the bottom line, Justin was so worried about Isaiah leaving because he wanted to make a tournament. And when Isaiah, reversed course and went back to the NBA, and he was the only one that took advantage of that rule, we were worried about getting, Justin on campus, being happy, because that was a big thing for him was winning. And a lot of transfers, they just want to get their minutes, get their stats, and get out. We had legitimate concern on his, mental makeup about Arkansas once Isaiah left, because I had kind of sold him on Isaiah would open up the floor, and he stuck with us. His mom and dad have been incredible in their belief in us as a staff, communication-wise, and sometimes as a coach and a player, there comes a point in a season where you just totally bond and you're on the same page. And it doesn't happen with everybody. But right now, for the most part, I get the guys and they get me. And that's the chemistry right now.
Yeah.
And irregardless of what happens moving forward, we have incredible chemistry when we're eating, when we get on a bus to go to the zoo, when we're in COVID. This group really likes each other and really trusts each other.
So how hard is it to build that culture? I think people from the outside looking at it think it's easy. I know
2 years, like not just.
Well, but it changes year to year. The pieces change. So building that culture is an ongoing thing, right, Coach? Because the players change because of just the nature of the transfer portal and the way it is now. Not everything's fluid. So how hard is that? How hard a part of your job is that culture building process that seems to go on day to day, week to week?
Really hard. With the way college athletics is going right now, this off season, the game's changed. If you look at the portal right now, there are star players from teams leaving. I'm not talking sixth men or fourth starters, which is a lot of times the case in the past. And then you've got to try to evaluate, a guy that's the third leading scorer on the team. Can he become a second leading scorer with proper development? And you kind of got to predict into the future based on film, and then you do your research on work ethic. I'm telling you what, right now, there are star players in the portal. Yeah. And, we're balancing preparation. You can't stop recruiting. It's a year-round thing. But you've got to dive into a player's personality. You've got to find out what are their goals. So when I talk about Justin Smith wanting to win, when I talk to a player, ask him what he's looking for, and he brings up minutes and shots, that's not our guy. When they bring up winning, who are my teammates? What's the culture like? What's practice like? What are your goals to make all those things? Those are our guys. And I do think that, fortunately for me, my background of building minor league teams when players come and go has really helped me in this, transfer portal team building process of how to get guys on the same page as quickly as possible.
When players no longer want to win for themselves or the coach, but they want to win for their teammates, they feel accountability to their teammates. Is that when you've achieved the right magic level of culture and where you want to be, when they want to do it for each other more than anything else?
Or they want to do it for, we have a lot of in-state guys. A lot of these guys, they want to win for the state. But it's interesting. I mean, we're in a tight game against Texas Tech. I'm going through plan A, plan B, plan C on our last 2-minute defense. And I look over and Tate and Devo they're kind of talking and they're laughing. And right now we have a confident team. There's no panic in them, which is good because we talked about it before the season. We showed them a lot of big comeback wins and told them that, you got to play for 40 minutes. It's a game of runs. You can't let momentum, take over the game. You can't hold your head. But I wish our huddles were mic'd. There's a lot of great one-liners, but the player communication in the huddle right now is probably better than any team that I've ever coached at the collegiate level.
Coach Eric Musselman with us live from Indianapolis, Indiana at the Sweet 16 on the Morning Rush. Coach, I think one of the things that Arkansas fans appreciate about you is early on and I know it was probably difficult for you initially when you're taking over for Mike Anderson. That's a former Nolan Richardson disciple, and something you've touched on is that Nolan's been on board with you. You had a great deal of respect for him before you arrived at campus. After
we not to interrupt, but we actually talked yesterday.
Oh, wow.
For a very long time. He called, left me a voicemail. I was on a recruiting call. I called him right back, and we talked we might have had our longest conversation yesterday. And you talk about a class guy and somebody who's rooting for us and wants to give advice. Really, really incredible for me to be able to talk to him, get his insight, talk to him about making a run. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. This is better. Do this. Go this route. So
what was that? I mean, you gave us some insight. Can you tell us more about that conversation?
Any specifics?
Yeah, he just talked about our defense and how we're able to play multiple ways and how guys can adjust on the fly. And the bottom line, because he has a lot of the same thought process as my dad, you got to win with talent and you got to get the talent to play hard. And so many people think it's about X and O's, which you have to have X and O's. But you've got to have talented players and get them to really understand the importance of playing with maximum effort for 40 minutes. It sounds so simple, but it's not. I mean, just take this bubble, for instance. I'm not so sure there weren't some teams that mentally got tired and it affected their play. And you saw it in the NBA playoffs. You've got to be mentally tough to advance in anything, let alone when you're in a controlled environment in a bubble. Yeah. And we talked about all those things.
Coach, we really appreciate you taking some time this morning. Again, I think it's hilarious that you're able to simultaneously do this while on your bike.
How far are you going to ride that thing?
Yeah.
Right now I'm at 26 minutes, 50 seconds, but because I've been on with you guys, I'm on level 8. As soon as we hang up, I'm jacking this thing up to about level 13.
There you go. Well, Coach, before we let you go, we've had this thing at the station. I know you've seen me in person. You know I've got this long hair thing going on, and I value it very much. Now, fans have said if Arkansas...
Hey, have you seen a picture of Matty Moss, my son?
He's growing it out too, man.
Hair length.
There's some similarities there, but
he's got the curly hair.
Listen to what my boy here's done.
So I said if Arkansas makes the Final Four, I'll shave my head. I know you're headstrong into Oral Roberts this week and stuff, but I'm gonna let you do this. If you guys end up in Lucas Oil Stadium in the Final Four, you are more than well. I'm just giving you the invitation. You don't have to, but you are more than welcome to shave my head on the JJ's Grill on Dixon on the stage. Is that something you'd be interested in?
Well, the question is, and we've got enough time until that could possibly happen. You guys will have to estimate how many Twitter hits that'll get, and if you guys think it'll give us enough, then I'm all in.
Yeah. I think that would help generate a few more.
Just a few, Coach.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, have a good bike ride.
Jack up that level, Coach.
It's up. It's 9, 10. See you guys.
All right, see you.
Good stuff with Aaron Musselman. So we found her. I guess we found her guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And his son's hair, if you've seen it, his younger son, it's longer. I think it might be longer than mine, and it's curly too.